Rob Dorsett has been with our England players today. Rob, does he have a point, Ten Hag, in what he says? England did win. They are in charge of the group.
Yes, they did. And that little comment by Erik Ten Hag there, where he clearly was critical of the England manager Gareth Southgate and his tactics, is quite spicy, isn't it? But I'm not going to try and get involved in a war of words between the England manager and the Manchester United manager. We know that Erik Ten Hag is not happy that Manchester United spoke to other candidates as part of their end-of-season review. We know that Gareth Southgate, not necessarily as part of that review, but has been sounded out about potentially being involved with Manchester United at some point in the future. However, I do think Ten Hag has a point about how England faded in that second half pretty badly against Serbia. I see what he means as well about England being too compact, in his words. Look at the way England are lining up at the moment because of the injuries they've got at the back. Right-footed Kieran Trippier at left-back, right-footed Phil Foden at left wing, right-footed Bukayo Saka, left-footed Bukayo Saka, left-footed Bukayo Saka on the right wing. Let's get it right. You've got players whose natural foot is not akin to the wing that they're playing on. And the stats will show you there are only 11 shots in the game as a whole, 6 of those for Serbia, 5 for England. The lowest ever, that is, in a Euros match since the competition started in 1980. And England completed 68 fewer passes in the second half compared with the first half. Possession first half, England 56%, second half 51%. So the stats back up what Erik Ten Hag is saying there. England did fade. They allowed Serbia to get on top. I'm not sure all of it was tactical, though. I would point out that England have a lot of key players that aren't fully fit right now. You look at Harry Kane, you look at John Stones, Kieran Trippier, Bukayo Saka. Those players got some important game time in their legs, and maybe, just maybe, Gareth Southgate left them on there to do that. It was a risk to do so, I have to point out, and England definitely started to lose things in midfield. Maybe he should have made those substitutions earlier, taking Trent Alexander-Arnold off, who isn't a natural defensive central midfielder, of course, bringing on Conor Gallagher, the Chelsea man, who absolutely is. So, yeah, I think there's criticism correctly there at Gareth Southgate, but maybe some mitigating circumstances because of the condition of his squad. He will hope, and the England players will hope, that fitness, that ability to sustain the great start they made in the first half will actually improve as the tournament progresses.
Just expanding on that, and by the way, Belgium are just gone a goal down to Slovakia. More on that to come. But people are asking if Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham can effectively play in the same team.
It's really difficult, isn't it? Look, I don't think there's any doubt that Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden are best deployed as a number 10 for England. The truth is, Phil Foden, for some reason, hasn't been able to replicate his extraordinary season and form for Manchester City in an England shirt. He played number 10 in both the warm-up games, struggled to influence both of those matches, you have to say. Jude Bellingham last night played number 10, man of the match by a mile, scored England's decisive goal, won more tackles than anybody else in the midfield as well, dictated play. Did everything in that number 10 role that Phil Foden hasn't been able to do for England of late. So in the battle for the number 10 role, there's only one winner in Gareth Southgate's mind right now. And so where does Phil Foden play? When he's not playing number 10, England use him exclusively on the left wing, which is where he started last night. But if you look at the heat map and the stats of Phil Foden for his club this season, which we can show you now, look at it. He has played number 10, he has played right wing. Look where he goes, naturally right-footed. He drifts out onto that right-hand side, and that's where he's been most effective for Manchester City. So it does seem a problem for England that they can't get the best out of Phil Foden right now, and maybe that's because they've got too many good players in the same position. If you play Phil Foden on the right wing, where do you put Bukayo Saka? That's where he's been playing for Arsenal, and it's where he's been playing for England for the last 3 tournaments, where he's been outstanding, one of the first names on the team sheet. So this harkens back to the age-old debate we have with England. Think of Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard. Think of Paul Scholes when you throw that in the mix as well. Too many world-class players wanting to play in the same position. Jude Bellingham will be England's number 10 for the rest of this tournament, assuming he's fit. He proved again that is not even a debate last night. But the debate is absolutely raging about how best to use Phil Foden. Where should he play? Should he even start the game against Denmark on Thursday?
Well, here's another question which is kind of related, and you'll see what I mean. Luke Shaw, who would affect the way that a left-sided forward is going to play, wasn't at training today, but that needn't be bad news.
Well, I was worried, I've got to be honest, because what you get the day after a game with England training is you get all the players that didn't feature in the match having a full session. The players that played for England against Serbia last night and those that came on and played a decent number of minutes as substitutes were all carrying out their own personal rehabilitation programmes and recovery programmes, shall we say. They didn't get back to the team hotel until about 4 a.m, by the way, having returned and flown back from Gelsenkirchen. But we watched the England team out there, and because Luke Shaw hadn't been part of the matchday squad, we expected him to train. I was worried. I spoke to a couple of sources, and it was made very, very clear to me that that Luke Shaw had a very intense full training session yesterday when the rest of the squad were playing that game, and so today was almost like a recovery day for him. He was in the gym, he was doing some work in the aqua pool, he was having some massage and some physio work, so no concern about Luke Shaw right now other than the fact that he hasn't played any football since the middle of February. He's still on track, as far as I'm aware, to play some part in this game against Denmark on Thursday night. Now, don't expect him to start. If you haven't played any football for more than 3 months, that ain't going to happen, but Southgate's hoping he can get maybe 10 minutes out of him, maybe 15 minutes towards the end of the game if it's going England's way, and then you can gradually increase the workload and the number of minutes that Luke Shaw plays from there. And we talked about England's compactness, their lack of width. Luke Shaw is the obvious solution in the immediate short term, isn't he? A left-footed left-back who plays very, very well at left-back, England's first choice left-back as well, even though Kieran Trippier does a great job deputising their outer position when he's not available. So yeah, better signs for England on the treatment table and the recovery room. Let's see how that progresses over the coming days.